Good afternoon. Kent Boehm here with Nine Business Group, sitting down for a few minutes with Phil Unger of company name here. And please tell us, Phil, a little about yourself and your company.
Hey, thanks, Kent. My name is Phil Unger. I'm President CEO of Cadeon Inc. Cadeon Inc. is a 15-year-old data analytics, machine learning, AI company, helping our customers solve all their challenges with their data integration and getting the highest amount of value from their data within their organization. We're located here in Calgary as headquarters, but we actually have customers across North America and in Switzerland and Australia. So I guess that makes us international.
So who would be your ideal client then?
Well, our ideal client is, so we work, the categories are what we call small, medium business, mid-market. So those are companies that are over 750 million in revenue. Right up into enterprise over $1 billion. And we work in both sectors because information is not biased. Everybody has it and everybody has struggles with it. So our ideal client is someone who's super frustrated, not being able to tell the story about what's going on in their organization or in their department, that knows that the answer's in data and needs to work with almost like a coach or a mentor like Cadeon to help them get that value that they're looking for.
I have a gazillion questions on that, but I don't think we have time for it. We'll maybe get to that next week. It's always interesting to give the audience a bit of perspective on not just where the company is today, but why did you go into business in the first place? Did you start Cadeon, and if so, why?
Yes, I did. Cadeon was founded in 2007, as we said, 15 years old. The primary reason was, like my background is more in the architecture space, like enterprise architecture and just working in organizations, seeing all the different, like how processes work, how information works, applications and technology together and coming up with plans. So taking a plan for that to implement the strategy of the company. And me and a business partner, we got together in 2007 and we're like, listen, we've been on so many projects where there's always been one or two individuals that, quite frankly, just were in the way. So our notion when we started was, we're going to put together a great team of A players. We're going to go into organizations with our team, and we're just, we're going to work hard. We're going to deliver a ton of value, make some money, have some fun. That was really the genesis of our company. And luckily, my business partner at the time had already been through two companies. So he was like, in essence, a mentor for me because he had the scars on his back and the smile on his face from doing it 2 other times. So that made it super easy for me to be able to, follow his lead steps of what we needed to put in place. And so that was the essence of why we started. But and we grew exponentially every year. We got basically turned into a resourcing business for full-time and for contract. But then we realized in about 2010, people didn't really want to pay for a team to come in and deliver projects. They still kind of wanted specialists. And then we also saw where everybody was struggling and they were struggling with information. So we're like, and again, my background as an enterprise architect, everybody was focused on applications. Everybody was focused on technology. Nobody was really looking at the reason why we have apps and technologies, and that's information. So we pivoted hard in 2010 and we said, okay, we're all in on information. And that's where we've been focused ever since.
So are you in, I'm going to use, and maybe it's a bit of paraphrasing, but are you in the finishing stage of the business or in dream mode?
I call us a 15-year-old startup, Kent. 100. Oh yeah, 100%. The industry that we're in right now, I had an article sent to me recently, is doing about 23% compound annual growth right now. So the thing that we marvel at, because my business partner left in 2015, but he's back working for me as a consultant now and has been for the last 2 years. So it's nice to be working with him again. And when we reflect on the journey, right? Because everybody talks about overnight success. And a lot of these overnight successes are 20 years in the making. But when we reflect back, we knew that we were right in the right spot, but of what we wanted to do. But what we didn't account for was how long it was going to take for the world to get to where we were. That was the biggest surprise. It was like, well, everybody should get this. Like, we've been talking about information growing exponentially for 12 years. And we've been talking about how fast the knowledge of mankind is like exponentially growing. It's probably now into doubling quicker than 12 months, the entirety of what humanity knows. But it's only what we're seeing now where it's really starting to make a difference. And it's really starting to change the way that the world is working and using information.
On the technology side, was COVID an impact on your business? If so, how, and was it good or bad?
The answer is yes, and both. So
glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Yeah. So COVID, actually, we grew. We had hockey stick growth in the first 3 months of COVID. Like, because what happened, it's counterintuitive, because what happened was everybody displaced their workforce. So they didn't have the capabilities of being in the office. They didn't have access to their information. They had no insight as to what was going on, but they knew they couldn't go to work, right? For obvious reasons. So now they needed solutions, and they needed ways to find out what was going on, and they needed to find out what was going on remotely. So like, I had customers that were mad at me because I could not keep up with the demand. So it got crazy right up until about summer, July, when things started to open up again. Then we saw a little bit of a trough where things kind of fell off again because we had weathered the storm of the demand. But then I'd say later that year, October, November, things picked up again. And we've been going strong ever since. And as the world now, we've got the opposite problem now, because what we have is the displaced workforce is coming back into the office. Well, every business has basically extended their borders, their process externally. There's a lot of knowledge hanging on the outside of those businesses now, and now they need to bring it back in. So now we're also starting to see people going, hey, not only do I need to bring my people back in because they have the tacit knowledge in their head, but I need to know what they've been doing for 2 years during COVID and pull back all that business knowledge that they have on their laptops back into the fold, into, whether it's their corporate data center or whether it's a cloud. Like, they need to aggregate that information back. So it's kind of like we decentralized our businesses, and now we're trying to centralize back to some sort of hybrid model.
You still have a smile on your face, and I'm going to steal that phrase. I love it. The scars on your back and a smile on your face. I think it's genius. 20 years in the making, yes, but there's a lot more to be said for, the scars on our back and the smile on our face, which means we're still enjoying business. So that being said, what do you love about what you guys do? Like, what's the passion there? And in layman's terms, what do you provide your users?
Yeah, well, they're kind of tied together. I love providing clarity for customers, right? Like that's my passion. If we can get the answers for the questions that they have in business, and if we this path to analytics, like we talk about it, we throw it around every single day like it's something easy. We can say it very easily. We talk about machine learning and AI all the time, and people are really scared about AI in some ways, but it's not easy, right? And there's some very basic fundamentals that you have to go through, but not a lot of organizations are prepared. So what I really like is when we go into an organization, depending on whatever maturity level they are, we build momentum. So we give them the clarity, we show them the path forward, but we build more momentum with them. And what's the real reward and the juice, if you will, is watching that snowball pick up speed, rolling down the mountain for them. And when they get it and they understand what's starting to happen, they're like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And like time and time again, like that does not get old. I've seen organizations start with, just a small area in the company, a couple of licenses of software, and now they're 50 licenses, because that's the momentum that it's created. Because that data mindset, that asking those questions and making it actionable, so that they know what's going on and they can drive by insight versus by some report or an Excel spreadsheet that somebody whipped together that you have no idea where they got the numbers from, is very, very powerful. And the insight that it provides gives good direction so that companies can make really solid decisions now on where they need to go next.
Can you give us some examples without getting into proprietary information or client specifics, but could you give us something tangible that you were helping a client do or help them navigate something using in a practical way the data that you were to help them mine and understand?
Sure. One of the best examples during COVID, this project started, like I think the COVID lockdown was March 16th. This project started in April. And it was a large 1,000 franchise restaurant chain in Canada. I won't give you their name, but let's just say there's one letter and another letter, so you can figure it out. So basically, they came to us with a story, and we've done some press releases and stuff on this as well. They needed to analyze their menu because now the whole sit-down experience was gone. Nobody was coming into the restaurants. Well, in fact, they couldn't let anybody come into their restaurants. So it was like, okay, so what about our menu that we're going to sell to our customers now, or how do we need to change to, these COVID times so that they could remain profitable and all their franchises could remain profitable? So that was the first project that we did with this team. And, they were humming and hawing because they had a third-party software as a service package that they were using to do reporting. And we just said to them, listen, I said, give us your data, give us 2 days. We will build some dashboards for you in 2 days that we will show you why that you don't want to go with your software as a service and how you're going to be able to ask way more questions and answer way more of the questions that you have today, especially in these uncertain times. And, the net of all of it, by the time the project was done, and it wasn't that long, it was like 3 to 4 months, they ended up saving like 5,500 man hours. The lady that was actually running the report engine that was generating this report for them previously, she got promoted to director. She ended up training all these people on how to use this new dashboard, this new portal that we built for them to analyze their menu. And with this customer now, we are into the 5th concurrent project. So we started with one, and we're now into the 5th project that we've done with them because of just the impact that made in their business.
I mean, you were able to keep that restaurant and those franchises alive by understanding their data better and then allowing them to change their menu to fit the buying pattern, which they had, but they couldn't understand it.
And drove costs out of their business at the same time. 5,500 man hours, right, per year. Yeah,
that's 3 full-time people.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So, and then again, what we also did is we took the smart people that they had that were running the reports, and we put them in the decision. We helped put them in the decision-making jobs that they needed. So now it wasn't about generating the information. Now it was driving by the information, which, that's the game changer there, Kent, where you're driving by that insight. You don't have to fight to pull all this data together from all these disparate data sources. They could be desperate, but
they are sometimes. They're locked in a closet and they're hiding because no one's using them.
Well, there's that, right? So, pulling that all together and then like it's easy. Because it's, just like we're talking here today, I have my single pane of glass of what's going on in my world. And now I can make really, really good decisions about what I need to do on a daily basis versus, I got to run a report and then analyze the report. And then it's never the reporting systems that I've seen. They're never the complete picture. They're always a slice. And what we really needed with COVID, because of all the uncertainty, is we needed the width. As much of the data and as many data sources as you could possibly pull into your decision making gave you as close to a 360-degree view of what was going on.
What is the smallest client you've worked with in either number of employees or revenue size?
The
smallest. What would be the smallest client you would have worked with, or either number of employees or, because I have a couple of clients in that 100 to 150 million space. So in revenue, and I'm kind of going, is what kind of problems would they have to be having that would be a trigger for me to go, hey, let's introduce you to Phil and his team?
We've actually even gone, we're actually working right now with a startup because they have an idea. It's in the automotive industry. They have an idea, and they need the kind of services that we have. And again, their budget is tight, but because that's the great thing about what we do. It doesn't cost a fortune to get started, right? And then when you see the savings, that builds the momentum. So if it's a $150 million client, absolutely, we can help. I mean, these guys, they'd be lucky if they're $1 million, right? They're probably not. But generally, because of the, the work that we do, yeah, we see all shapes and sizes, but the general range is probably more to that 500 million and up. But yeah, we've definitely worked with smaller.
Thank you. What's the biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
How delightful it is to be a business owner.
Okay, you might have to try that with a straight face next time.
As a business owner, 15 years in, what I would say is this: I was not prepared for what I needed to do. 95% of what you do is very, very hard, and you kind of push your way through it. But the 5% that you get as a result, you can't get it anywhere else, and that's what makes it worthwhile. So you're basically doing 95% of all your work for 5%, but that 5% is worth that much, right? And I think everybody wants to be like Elon Musk is in the news a lot these days with what he's doing with Twitter and whatnot. I think everybody wants to be Elon Musk, but I don't know if people know how hard that man has worked to be where he is today. And as a business owner, I truly appreciate it because he's done some great things, and he'll continue to do great things just because of who he is.
Well, that's kind of why I asked that second question kind of around, are you in finish mode or dream mode? Because at some point the business, not that we're ever done building a business, but we get to a certain state where we to finish it, sell it, or because it's successful, we could do some dreaming and we've accomplished a certain level, then it's kind of like, what's next?
Yeah. And I think that there is some, I think you've got to grow in skill to a point where, for me, I'm still getting I don't need to look at what's next because I'm still getting a lot out of what I do, right? I also see, I'll give you an example. What we're seeing with the application, but what we are doing right now, we're talking to a prospect about it's all in around heart health. So like as a a male carbon unit, there's basically 3 forms of cancer and stroke and heart disease that's gonna kill us, right? That's the potential. But what we're seeing now is with the application of the data and being able to pull this all together, we're starting to talk about things like sequencing human genomes and then looking for the outliers in that genome. And with this particular client, his vision is to basically create, I'll call it a barrier around your actual genome, and so that the genes don't activate, right? We all have genetic predispositions. So how do we insulate that those genes don't activate? So when you start doing things like that, and like we work in all industries, of course, Calgary, we're in energy, but when you start to get into how do we help humankind using this application, it gets super cool. So it's not like I need the next thing per se yet, because I don't think we're anywhere close to being done with what we're doing now. And if the one thing I'd say that we're fortunate about is we've been doing it for 15 years, and we're in this place right now where it feels like it's we talked about the 23% annual growth in this industry right now. That's great. I mean, because we understand the problem, we know how to solve the problem. So what I'm really excited about is what are some of the new problems we're going to solve. And when it starts getting into like having that kind of impact, that's super cool.
Good for you. That is fantastic. What was the other question here? What one piece of advice would you share about growing or scaling a business? There's usually more than one, but let's see if we can do maybe three.
Well, I'll give you one. The first one that comes to mind is I got my Ph.D. and in pig-headed determination. It takes, just think about the hardest thing you've done in your life and then multiply it by 10, right? Like it is a grind. It is especially with scaling. So starting a business, that's one thing, right? Because if you start a business, I mean, if it's a franchise, it's pretty easy. It's a defined model. You know what the processes are, you know what revenue is, you know, all those kinds of things, right? So there's a number of those: real estate agents, you know, restaurants, whatever. There's predefined. But when you're in a consulting business like ours, it's about what are you consulting on and how do you focus, right? Because the WTF that I talk about is where's the focus, because that's very important, is where is the focus of what it is that you're doing. But when you're scaling a company, it's like it's never done. It's not like you get to the close. It's not the bus driver at the end of the day. The bus driver drops all the riders off and goes home at night and says, you know what, I did a good job. I got everybody home. When you're scaling a business, it's not like that, because the next day when you wake up, you have more things to do than you have time for. So you have to be able to survive that chaos and organize it in such a way to figure out what's that next most important thing that I need to do to grow the business, which is working on the business, versus just working in the business. And there is a vortex that it's a tornado that's sucking you back into working in the business. That's very, very hard to break away from to focus on the business. So yeah, it's like being very determined. You know, you got to want it more than you ever thought you ever did. And then there's the other thing is you have to be very comfortable with risk, because as a business owner, like there's risk from the people that you hire, to the people that you fire, to the customers that you have, to the you know, the clients that if something goes wrong could sue you, right? Like, so you have to be very uncomfortable. And a lot of entrepreneurs, like, you have to be measured with what you're doing, because you can't bet the farm, you can't throw everything in, you can't bet your house, your livelihood, and everything in your business, because if you do, invariably in business, things go south. And when they do, you have to be prepared. So I think that you have to be comfortable with a high level of risk tolerance, but you also have to be very cautious and have a plan, because if plan A goes south, what's plan B? And if plan B goes south, what's plan C? But always insulate yourself from, if the worst happens, COVID, you know, you're still, when you can take the time to recover and move on.
You sound pretty comfortable and happy, big smile on your face. You're obviously loving what you do in the space and the clients you're in, but there's always a yin to the yang. So what's the biggest frustration in your business right now?
Well, I'd have to say the biggest frustration is it's always going to be sales and marketing. Because honestly, many times I've said this, I feel like we have the cure for cancer. We just can't tell anyone. Because what we do is, you know, very applicable. I wish more people would just embrace it, you know, find a good coach to help them on the analytics journey. But it's a very noisy world we live in. We've got a lot of smartphones, right? But not necessarily an educated user of the smartphone. So depending of, you know, how that's going, and I don't mean that sound negative, I just mean that there's, how do you sift through the amount of information you have to sift through nowadays is a barrier. So for you to stand out, you can't just be yelling and selling. You have to be able to provide value to your customers, and you have to be able to find your customers. So that in itself is, you know, 90% of the business, being able to sell. Like, it's great that we have a lot of great customers. I can't tell you enough about the great customers we have, but it's finding that next customer, and that's a perpetual thing. It has to happen. It has to happen all the time. So I think especially through COVID, especially in the world now where we can't sell in person or haven't been able to, we actually have a client meeting tomorrow in person, which is the first time in a long time where we're going to actually sit down with the client face to face. That has really been that's been challenging. I mean, we're working through it, but it's something that gets a lot of my time and attention.
Cool. I want to go a little bit off script. You have a huge vision. It sounds like what you do from a layman's perspective, pretty impactful in helping companies of various sizes all over the world. And it sounds like it could go on forever, but we can't run our businesses forever. At some point, Mrs. Phil's going to go, can we spend some more time? Can we work a little less? Can we go on vacation? So is there a succession plan for you to take your company and let it grow past you? Or is it already in that space where it just keeps growing and building and building?
For me, here's what I kind of envision, and I'll use a good Canadian hockey analogy, right? Right now, I'm probably at this stage of my business, I'm probably as a general manager, right? Like I am an owner, but I'm kind of playing the role of the general manager. But, I have coaches on the team. I have players that are out on the ice. I have visibility. I'm looking after the salary cap, all those kinds of things. But my vision ultimately is to become the owner. But I think it's also to maintain that vision and that visionary, right? So build on the success that we have. But the one thing that's the very nice surprise that I've seen is I'm very interested in the world of leadership these days. And I spend a lot of time over and above taking courses and working with mentors and those kinds of things. And I'm very interested in growing more leaders. So I guess for me, if we want to talk a little bit about legacy and those kinds of things, that's what I really want to be. Is I want to be able to take my experience that I've gained. I want to build an organization that I can grow more leaders, and kind of get to that hands-off model and just focus. But then really work with those people within the organization. And we have a lot of smart people. I literally have a rocket scientist that works for me in data analytics. And but where we're helping to round out those folks, and where I care about those folks, is really about how do we make them better people, right? How do we make them? They're already good professionals because they're smart and they're really good and skilled at the craft. But how do we make them better leaders? How do we make them better people as a result of their time that they're spending with us, so that work for them is not just about coming in and doing what they do. It's really about, it's that continual and never-ending improvement, but it's professionally and personally.
In the last couple months, the more and more people I talk to in these interviews and kind of getting out to the marketplace, I'm finding somewhere between 10 and 20% people are using quote unquote outside counsel, advisors, coaches, strategists, etc. Who have you been able to lean on in the last 5 years as your business scaled to be that confidant, the advisor? Have you used a coach, or what has your experience been, and what would you recommend to others to look outside?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'll say I've done lots of praying. So there's one coach right there. But no, others, like definitely I've had lots of I've gone through many courses and whatnot. But what I've really found is you have to find a coach that fits you. You have to find somebody you can connect with. And you have there's a lot of people in the coaching space. There truly is. And I've worked with I've been blessed to work with some of the truly some of the best. But what I find is that it's got to fit you, and it's got to fit your business. It's like I've been to Tony Robbins Business Mastery. I spent 5 days. I danced for 5 days and 75 hours in 5 days. And I came out of that. I've never been higher in my life, elevated, but 5 days later, I'd never been lower, because it was a big buildup, and then it was a big letdown. And Tony does lots of great work. I'm not saying anything negative about Tony, but I think, is there value in coaching? 1000%, right? If you're, depending on where you are in your journey, and this whole journey is about learning. And success, as Tony talks about, success leaves a trail of breadcrumbs. And you want to work with the people that know kind of the recipe, to find the breadcrumbs, because there's a certain amount of things that you need to have in place to be successful. And if you've never done this before, you don't know what it is. Give you an example. Everybody, when they start a business, I think they look at their bank account and they go, okay, well, that's how my business is doing. And the answer is no. That's not how your business is doing. That's a moment in time. What is your accounts receivable? What is your accounts payable? This is the cash you have on hand. And the best advice I can give anybody is, revenue is vanity, profitability is sanity, cash flow is king. Follow the money. Follow the money. And so I've had coaches specifically just for that, so that you know where you are, and so you don't get a surprise one day to say that, hey, you know what, I'll use Twitter as an example. One of their first years, when they were really not Twitter, but Uber, they were super successful. They were a $2 billion business, but they lost $1 billion. And I'm like, I don't want that company. Like, one, I don't know if I'd sleep at night if I lost $1 billion. I made two, fantastic, but I lost $1 billion. Like, wow, how am I going to recover? So I think the finance side of it is key. The sales and marketing side, and I could talk for hours about marketers and marketing agencies. I may start a marketing agency sometime, just based on my experience, to be honest with you. Because I've been down the path. I've been in the 3-ring circuses, I don't know how many times. But so getting a good marketing coach about what's good, even what constitutes something as simple as a website. I spent some time recently with a coach, an SEO coach. He, in front of about 200 or 300 other people, I said, use my site. Tell me what's wrong with my site. He spent 20 minutes telling me what was wrong with my website, and he didn't leave the homepage. And so it's just those kinds of things. So I think the coaching aspect, the number one issue, Kent, is this. As somebody, and again, 15 years into the journey, my number one problem is the bottleneck sits in this chair. Learning how to delegate, learning that's to ask the question of who, not how, is important. So coaching, absolutely. Finding those coaches, finding those people that can, be those people. Find the things that you struggle. Delegate the things that you struggle with that they play at. Like, there's no question that there's value, but you got to find the right coaches, because there's quite a few.
For sure. Tough question. What's the biggest mistake you've made that you've made that you're willing to share?
Oh man, the biggest mistake that I've made that I'm willing to share. Oh man, so we never talk about mistakes. We talk about winning or learning.
Learning opportunity, sure. Pick one.
What's the biggest learning opportunity? The biggest learning opportunity I think that I've had in 15 years is don't put all your eggs in one basket. We had, more than 10 years ago now, we had our largest customer early on give us notice that we were done. And it was 80% of our revenue. So there's a book out there about who moved my cheese. I learned that personally, and that was a super tough one. And it's tough in a lot of ways. Not only is it tough on you as a person, but it's as to why things like that happen in business. But it's also tough to then go back in front of your team and keep that smile on your face and give them hope and give them confidence that you're going to get through this, right? So that, if there's one, so it wasn't really a mistake. Well, I guess it was a mistake, but like I said, in the context of learning, always be diversified, always make sure that if you always have a contingency plan, I guess is what I would say.
What do you want to be known for?
This is back to the legacy. I think just that I made a difference. Yeah. Right. That.
In what way? I don't know. I'm not going to let you off. You're smart. You've run a big business. I'm not sure we can let you off the hook, and I've made a difference.
Well, I think it's impact. What's the impact that I made? Like, I made a difference. I impacted, whether it's some of my technical team or my sales team or my customers or some of my partners. Just I made a difference, right? Or I made them think about or see the world a little bit different with my perspective, right? In a positive way, right? Not, it's all about we're all orbiting the sun at the same speed. It's just about if you can give somebody a different context that's helpful and you can make a difference, I think that's it for me.
It's excellent. I think even if I think about, the 30 minutes we spent together here today, and I think about the example you gave us of the restaurant, that you may or may not have saved that restaurant, but you may have, just by helping 5 or 10 individuals understand information better and make better choices. That's a huge difference. It's not just one set of franchises. It's, I think you said, like 100 stores across Canada. That's a tens and thousands of employees that have a job today that maybe didn't have a job had you not been there to help their parent company or the organization understand their data better. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it was 1,000 franchises. And, I think the thing that we gave them is we gave them hope.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's and it was at a very timely time. Yeah. Because hope was very low at that time.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to forget. It seems like yesterday, but it's slowly distancing in the mirror. So anything you want to close with before we wrap up?
Well, number one, thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. Yeah, I guess if anybody sees this and would like to find out more or has questions about anything I've commented on today, by all means, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me in many, many places. But no, I think it's, and any aspiring entrepreneurs out there, right? Like, I think the thing to say is, this is hard, but it's worth it. But you got to know what's hard first.
100%. Yep. 100%.